Welcome to this edition of the eClinical Works podcast. I'm Adam Salati. Now, many times on the podcast, we talk about features and enhancements that are beneficial for practices, making their lives easier or reducing provider or staff burden. But today, what we're going to be discussing are a few features that are helping the patient's experience and taking a load off of busy patients and busy parents who are patients at Chisholm Trail Pediatrics, a 9-provider pediatric practice in Georgetown, Texas. And to speak with me today, we have Emily Littleton, who is the IT director down there at Chisholm Trail. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. Well, Emily, we're very excited to speak with you here today because you've been using Hilo tools to improve that patient appointment experience, and we're excited to hear what you have to share about that. Tell us a little bit about Chisholm Trail and what made you realize that you needed a different approach to the traditional check-in process.
Yeah, so Chisholm Trail Pediatrics has been in practice for almost 30 years. My dad was actually the founding pediatrician, and then kind of as time progressed, he decided it was time for retirement. My husband and I took over, part owners, and we wanted to make sure that we were progressing with the times. You know, we actually moved from paper charts to eClinical Works about 2 years ago, so that was the first step. And then it just progressed from there. You know, the pandemic hit shortly after, and we just knew that we had to make changes.
So what is it that you did to deal with all of those changes and needs at your practice?
The main thing that we added right away was the Hilo check-in. So our patients receive a text message a couple days before their appointment. With that text message, they can check their demographics. They can update their insurance. They can even upload a screenshot or a picture of their insurance card. They can pay their copay. And then the morning of their appointment, they get another text message with a link, and that link allows them to tell us they've arrived at the clinic. That was kind of our first step. Then we introduced Hilo statements. We send a text message, and from that text message, they're able to see their balance. They're able to pay right away, or they can say, okay, I'm going to have to pay this later, and they still have that reminder. So those are the two major additions and changes that we did.
2 days before the visit, you said the patients have a couple of things that they can do to get ready for the appointment. Tell us a little bit more about that process.
Absolutely. So they receive a text message, and we customize that message. So, for example, if it is one of our newborn babies, we know that when you have a newborn, life is crazy. It's just turned upside down. Your memory is just not there. So we put a few quick notes in the message. For example, bringing paperwork. That's a huge thing for our providers. So we remind them in that message to bring that paperwork, but they can click on the link. And then they go through a process. They make sure that we put in their address and name and baby's name correct. Date of birth is correct. And then they move on and can verify their insurance. If it's correct, looks good, they move on. If it's not, they can upload an insurance card. On the medical side of it, they can actually put new allergies in there. If any new allergies have popped up, they can put if they've on different medications. And then they can also, on the basic level, they can confirm it. They can say, yes, I'll be there, or it gives them a really easy way to cancel the appointment if something's come up. So that's usually what we ask them to do a couple days before, just to kind of prepare. And then, like I said, the morning of, they can click a button that says, I have arrived. It changes on our schedule. And although this is really easy for them, this feature is actually probably the most beneficial for my front office. That was really a big thing for us when the pandemic hit, because we were having patients wait in their vehicles. We have that luxury. We're not in a medical building, and so people park outside. Our well visits, they can come in not as big, but if we have someone who is sick or possible COVID or even just possible strep, something like that, they're able to wait in their car so they don't, come into the waiting room and expose everybody else around them. So that I feel like was a really big thing for us, to just sit in their car, let us know they're here. When we have that room ready for them, we'd call them and tell them to come on in.
I think you brought up a great point, is that, of course, a lot of this stuff was adopted by many practices out of necessity of the times recently. But
Mhm.
you're also mentioning, yes, strep throat or, other contagious things. Patients can now wait in their car and let you know that they're there so that they're not putting other, kids in the waiting room at unnecessary risk. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other ways that Hilo is changing communication with your patients?
I think it's just making it easier to communicate with us. One thing that we found and that my management staff kind of come with me at was people don't answer their phones anymore. They had no idea when their appointments were. So that's kind of why the text message is so nice. We actually got rid of reminder phone calls altogether and went completely to text message. We were having a lot of patients move. We were having a lot of patients need to update their insurance and didn't have time to call us. And so it really gives that way for them to feel like they can update that stuff with us and be ready to go.
You're also not just a single location either. I believe you have two locations there, Chisholm Trail Pediatrics. And tell us a little bit about how the messages have had an impact on that dynamic.
Yeah, so we have two locations. The good news is they are only about 15 minutes away. So we really have patients that go back and forth, whether it's depending on schedule or some of them are halfway in between and they don't really care which one they go to. The bad news is they are 15 minutes away. So we have patients that will show up at the wrong location every now and then. And we were having that more and more. The problem with that is they show up at one location, we may be booked solid and they have to go to the other one. And it just is a disaster for the schedule. When they receive that message, we actually customized it to where it will say which location they are going to. And so, they get the text message. It says Chisholm Trail Pediatrics, Georgetown. Well, we've actually had a lot of parents call and say, oh, wait a minute. I was supposed to go to the Round Rock location. I see that I got a Georgetown location. And it gives us the ability to fix that problem before it even starts. And it just gives the parents, a reminder.
Emily, and you make a great point about those messages, is that they're not just canned messages. You actually have the ability to customize those through, by entering your own text and even entering tags that will pull the patient's information about, as you've mentioned here, like their visit location or the provider that they're going to be seeing or the appointment time. So all of that information can be customized. So it's not just a canned reminder message. It's actually pertinent to the patient's actual situation. Now, Emily, I wanted to ask you, we've been talking a lot about these messages, appointment reminders, and different things like that. What is an example of a good message? What makes a good message when you're communicating with the Hilo platform?
Yeah, this is something that we talked about a lot in the beginning. One good thing about us is we are a smaller practice. We do have 9 providers, 2 locations, but we're still family owned. So all of our decisions are, around the table eating lunch kind of thing. And one of the big decisions we made was, what do we want to tell these patients? My biggest argument was it needs to be short and sweet. If I get a text message, to be honest, I read it on my watch first, or you read it in that little pop-up message on your phone. And if it's 3 paragraphs long, I'm never going to get to that link. I'm okay. This is too long. I got to read it later. So short and sweet is the best thing. I kind of looked at my managers and said, okay, if a patient is coming in to get a physical, what's the one most important thing you want them to know? If a newborn is coming in, what is the one most important thing you want them to know? And we really tried to narrow it down. We also can change these messages on the fly. We were having a lot of issues, especially during the pandemic, with people just not showing up to their appointment. If they cancel it before, we don't charge a fee. No big deal. Let us know. Thank you. But we were having patients make appointments and then just not show up for them. So we actually made the decision in our message to put that there was a no-show fee applied. That was kind of an on-the-fly thing. We had a problem. We put it in the message, and it's actually significantly gone down. We at least have patients call us, which is what our goal was. So like I said, what's the most important thing you want them to know? To not be confusing, we did a lot of test runs. As a parent, is it confusing? are you going to read this and understand what we want from you? So I think those two things really helped us a lot narrow our messages down to what we really wanted them to be.
And what kind of feedback have you gotten from patients who are using this enhanced check-in experience?
So the little bit of feedback I've gotten is just how easy it is. In the beginning, we did a really good job of preparing our patients. It wasn't a, hey, look, this is new. Okay, you're on your own. We did a lot of background work and videos and instructional things to help them. And the biggest feedback I've gotten is actually the payment. Our patients love the fact that they can pay through the text message before they even walk into the building. Just the ease of that. Parents these days, they like to talk to us, but they would much rather do it through technology than call us on the phone. And that is something that they really appreciate with this.
Well, Emily, we're so glad that you were able to share some of the information about how you've been helping patients enhance their experience with your office through Hilo.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
If you're interested in any of the information we discussed here on today's podcast, you can go check out my.eclinicalworks.com, or of course, you can reach out to your strategic account manager who can help you with some more information as well. And if you've liked our discussion here today and you'd like to see more, don't forget to like the video and hit subscribe. And you can also check out our other episodes on iTunes, YouTube, or my.eclinicalworks.com. For the eClinicalWorks podcast, I'm Adam Salati, and thanks for watching.